Welcome back to the Mutual Music Podcast. This is Ryan Thompson. I've got Justin Jewett with me.
Yeah.
Here to talk about all things AI music today. What's up, Justin?
Not much. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to get into this. The robots have been busy.
They certainly have. So speaking of that, first bit of news is one of the AI bands that I've been working on pretty diligently over the last couple months. Sometimes Sheep, which I kind of talked about in the first episode. We're going to release the first single from that band, which is called Tin Can Heart. That's actually going to be released on November 28th on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, and everything, underneath that. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that does. If I have any, premonitions, I think it's probably going to do as well as any other music I've released, which is it'll sit there and I'll listen to it. It'll be easier.
Some friends
to
and family streams. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But, I've been obviously obsessing over it and sharing it with friends and family, and, it holds up as real music. And had I not told people that it's AI, I think they would be like, that sounds really cool. So we're going to see. We'll see how it goes. I think, my problem as an artist, really as an artist and somebody that's supposed to be promoting art, is I don't know how to promote the art. I just throw it on, to my couple hundred followers on Instagram, and then throw it in Spotify, hope to get it on a playlist and see what happens.
There's always something else that you should be doing, right? There's always this batteries not included aspect to making it. It's like, well, I got the thing, but I don't have the thing yet.
Yeah. Which is kind of an interesting thing as we think about the AI and AI music, like charging against the non-AI music industry. It's like, what is that thing? And is there some AI, promotion engine that's going to start ramping up? Maybe that's what we should be doing. I don't know.
Hey, yeah.
Hey, new business idea.
Right. Yeah, well, I love that song. I'm so happy that it's going to be released and everybody else is going to get to experience it. Like, I've talked to you about that song in particular, and some of the stuff that you're doing with Sometimes Sheep is there's feelings in that song.
Yeah, definitely.
It's very emotive, and the layering, I don't know, the way that music makes me feel is like a performance indicator, right? It's like, oh, wait a minute, this is real music.
Yes.
And so breaking down and trying to find what about it makes it that has been so fascinating to me. Clearly, it's, so many things rolled into one. But yeah, in a world where songs that are great and have a lot of feeling and heart behind them get millions of listens, you are about to be a rock star. I don't think we're in that world.
Right. Yeah.
Necessarily.
Yeah.
But super excited to have that out, and can't wait to share it with everybody.
Yeah. We will obviously post links and all that stuff once it's up, and you'll probably see it. It'll hit the top of the charts, I'm assuming.
Hell yeah.
So it'll be the next Walk My Walk.
Yeah. Watch out, Broken Rust.
That's right. Yeah, I do like to think in my head, as a songwriter, you tell the truth, or you emote, and you write things that are true to you anyway, and have feeling and emotion and all that stuff, and you're like, this should go somewhere, and then people are like, nah, I really can't dance to that, and I don't see a TikTok move happening here, so it's not going to get played.
Yeah.
But I'm an aging middle-aged dude. It's not going to happen. Or maybe
sometimes the somewhere that something needs to go is just out of you. You know what I mean?
That's
it's
right.
Like, okay, it went somewhere.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to see what it does. Maybe we'll put a little PR behind it, talk to all the influencers out there and get them to use it for a dance. And
there's definitely some experimentation to do, and just trying to figure out. I mean, I guess it would, maybe we would be more qualified if we had experience trying to market, our own music.
Right.
You know, and seeing how that goes versus, okay, now we got this hot shit and there's these buzzwords swimming around it. I do think that it's either going to be some kind of accelerator, or it's going to be like the opposite of that. It's like, oh, it's AI, fuck it. No.
Yeah.
Conversation over. Or it's going to be, oh, it's AI. That's very, very interesting.
Right.
People are going to be, in my experience, or what I would expect from your friends and family as you send that song, is that they'll first listen to the voice and go, how'd you make your voice sound like that?
That's exactly, that is the first thing that everybody says. They go, whose voice is that? And I was like, that voice doesn't exist.
Nobody's. It's a phantom.
Nobody. Yeah, it's a phantom voice. It's a ghost. And You know, it's made up of bits and bytes. But yeah, that's nobody's voice. And that part, you know, like people are just like, I don't understand
Yeah.
it. Like, and how
You're
come
still
it's
allowed to enjoy it.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. And what's interesting too, I think about creating music, you know, with AI, music that you write that you care about, and you know, or any music really, but is that you can kind of hide. There's a little bit of anonymity, you know. Like obviously, you know that I did it because I tell you that, but
Yeah.
you can take. I feel like I can take a few more chances from a marketing perspective than I would with my own music. There's like, you know, there's music that has my band name or my name on it. I'm a little more intended sheepish to put that out there and like tell people to go listen to it, because you know it feels like they're doing you a favor, but it's like, hey, this is a thing that I created, it doesn't have my name on it, I'm just, you know, the messenger here, go listen to it and see if you like it. And
Yeah.
you know, maybe take a few more PR chances. It's funny, it seems like it would be the other way around, but you know, artists
Well, you
are
know,
artists. We're
like
modest.
Yeah, it's like that LinkedIn shit. You know, you don't really
Totally.
bring your whole self to LinkedIn, but you do to Instagram.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and
exactly.
I think that that's an amazing part of music or bands or whatever. Whenever the convention of, okay, when you make music, you're allowed to name yourself something else. You know, you're allowed to give yourself some other identity and create music from that place. Certainly, I doubt that was the reality in like 1899, right? But sometime between now and then,
Yeah.
we've gotten this like permission to like,
Yeah.
oh, as long as you're doing something musical, you can call yourself whatever you want and
Yeah.
hide behind it, which is very cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's funny too, because when you write music on your own, right, and then you show that to friends and family, the first thing they're like, "Do you really feel that way? Is that?" And you're like, "Well, you know, like the truth's always somewhere in the middle." But it's like, these are words that I've written based on, you know, something I was feeling or observed or whatever, and they're just like, "Wait, what is that? No, that can't be exactly how you feel." You know, you're so
There
troubled.
have been, you're so troubled. Well, there have been those times between you and I where I'm like, you know, I go through my moods, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes I have found that writing from the low point in the sine wave can be helpful, right? And so, you know, I'll put together some draft, like designated loser, you
Yeah.
know, and send it off to you. And then the kind of like anxiety starts like, damn, dude, is he,
Yeah.
shit, when am I going to get the are you okay call? You know what I mean? So I like reach out and say,
Yeah.
hey, this is just a song, man.
It's just a song. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just a song, dude.
Yeah.
Which is a cool thing to tell myself too. You know, like I don't really know what I'm doing any more than the next person. And so I think that sometimes when you're writing really heavy stuff, there's a choice, right? You can dive into it and swim down and let it sweep you away, or you can use it as a tool to kind of observe how you're feeling. A lot of times I'll write something and then look at it and like, I didn't even know I was feeling that way.
Yeah, absolutely. The sentiment with whatever you started writing with will just kind of take over, and
Yeah.
you know, every now and then, I feel like you have to be under the influence of something when you're writing. It could be happiness, it could be sadness, it could be drugs and alcohol. Hopefully, not that anymore these days. But you know, you have to be kind of overwhelmed with something, some feeling to be able to, I think, emote and get your inhibitions down, or get the whatever that feeling is out of you. You know,
Yeah.
it has to hit some critical point where you're like, I feel this way. And so, you know, to do that, and sometimes you'll take it too far. Like you can write a really cheesy, happy song, and you're like, okay, that's terrible. Or you can write, you know, a really, really sad, dark song, and you're like, well, that's terrible too. Like it's always, you know, you always have to like peel it back or take it down a notch and go, okay, this is the sweet spot.
I know.
This is what people
I
are
know
willing
what
to
you
deal with. Yeah,
yeah, this is the intensity knob.
Yeah.
I definitely know what you mean, and I don't, you know, maybe this is a transition, but like this bottomless thing that we've been doing,
Yes.
right, and to just briefly sketch that out. We have a number of fake bands, like 6 or 7 bands that before this project only existed in name only. With Zanunus is one of them, and it was just a visual project because I didn't have the capability to bring them to life. And so now here we are bringing them to life, and it's wonderful. And now to this point that we're talking about, I have found that I don't know why anybody would not have 6 bands. If I was Axl Rose, you know, and I wanted to sit down and write a
Right.
song, they're not all Guns N' Roses songs, and I think we proved that with Use Your Illusions 1 and 2, Guy.
Yeah.
You know, some of those songs could have been Axl Rose songs.
Right. Yeah.
You
The
know?
Axl Rose project.
Right. And so, like, what I have found is that if I sit down and just start sketching something out, you know, most of the time I have no idea which one of these bands it's going to be for.
Right.
And as things start to take shape, there will be some reminder that's like, oh, this fits. You know, it's harder to write a Haptic Lizard song than it is to write a Voton song, right? Like, because Haptic
Yes.
Lizard, is a doom band, and so they're singing about abstract, sort of like planetary existential dreads, whereas Voton is, you know, complaining about his feelings. And trying to make it sound beautiful. You know what I mean? And you know, Hobgoblin is riffing on like social justice or whatever the fuck it is. And so it feels like a dresser with a lot of drawers for me, you know, where I have a thing and now I can choose where it goes. And you know, honestly, I'm looking forward to some future state where we take Hobgoblin songs and imagine what they would sound like sung by Sometimes Sheep, you know, etc. All those capabilities are available to us too.
Yeah, it really does open up, and especially this project, the Bottomless project, where we've got, you know, 6 or 7 bands that we've been working on. It's like it opens up the creativity channel, just like they're coming from every angle, you know, and you're like, oh, that would be a cool song for this band, or that would be a cool line for this band, or that actually sounds more like this, or, you know, or shit, what, yeah, like you said, what if they played that song, you know, and you can kind of play make believe with all the parts, and it's
dude.
So much fun, and I honestly think it like brings out the best. And you're right, like it would be great, you know, in my musical career, like if I would have had 3 or 4 bands all at one time and go like, hey, you know, reggae band, you guys go play this. And,
hell yeah, dude.
You know, this sounds like that song, or why don't you guys all get together and we'll jam, you know? But this allows you to do that and do it so quickly and, you know, pretty well. Like it, you know, you still have to write a good song, but I think like the musicality of it all it just comes to you. So I think that's a huge creative outlet for anybody that wants to get music out there, which, you know, we've discussed over and over again. I think it's like, just do it. Just get out, just do it, you know, like whatever you want to do. I actually, related to that, I showcased some AI music from my mom and her sister, my aunt, who I love dearly, the other night. They're in their 70s, and they were blown away of what you can actually do with AI music. And then not only that, my mom was like, I got to download that app. So my mom to start writing songs. I don't know if she has yet, but yeah, she's like, I gotta get that downloaded and start making, you know, because it's in all of us. It's just now she has a way to do it. So pretty excited about that.
You gotta send me that track, dude. I gotta hear what
I can't wait. Cooking. Yeah. So you mentioned Bottomless. We are working on Bottomless. Maybe, you know, frame it up nicely for everybody. What exactly are we doing with Bottomless? And and what's the end goal with it?
Yeah, well, like I said, you know, its roots are kind of visual, specifically like a T-shirt. You know, I wanted to create a tour T-shirt that kind of made people go, what is that band? Right. And so I'm printing the T-shirts now here in my studio, which is exciting. I've been working on that for a couple months. Hard at work getting our sort of like song list buttoned down. We've had some flexibility in our process, but really what we're trying to do is put together the best 3 or 4 songs from each band in a live setting so that we can release the equivalent of like the Woodstock 94, you know, double CD with Collective Soul and you know, all those guys. And so it would feel like an experience that, you know, happened out in the world, but now here's this artifact for that. And I think that we're really trying to get that done by the end of the year. Does that sound... That sounds like a framework.
Good. Yeah, it sounds good.
It sounds nice and tidy.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, and I think that's a great way to kind of frame it. I love the idea, and in fact, this is how we started, was like, hey, let's turn that into a live album. That was like where my brain went first. It was like, there's this festival you never went to, there's a live album that you're going to listen to and be like, man, I wish I was there. That sounds rocking. And then we started pretty hot and heavy. It was like, we knocked out Hobgoblin, Haptic Lizard. I was working on the sheep stuff. We got Zununus knocked out. And then we hit Voton. And Voton is not a pain, but it was just like, oh, that's music I don't know about. And we're going to have to get into that. So I think what I'd like to do at the end of this, we're going to take a quick break and talk about some AI music news, but then we'll get into Voton and talk about how that happened and show the people what it's all about. How
let's try to put our finger
manifested
on it.
Voton. So Warner Music Group and Udio, which is another AI music generation tool. They are going to build a licensed music creation service. So this is exactly what you said was going to happen in the last meeting or in the last podcast, and it happened. I don't know. Maybe you knew you got insider trading information, but
Oh, we're in the Matrix, dude.
yeah.
I manifested it, I guess.
Yeah, so at the high level, so we don't have to read all this stuff here, is they are essentially, this is the beginning of the walled garden, right? They are going to they're afraid of their artist stuff being ripped off and duplicated or replicated in AI, with like close facsimiles, right? Not direct ones. So now what they're going to do is license their music catalogs and their essentially their artists and say, okay, now in this new creation service, you're going to be able to create, the Billy Joel, whatever. You're going to be able to create Billy Joel like music, and he's going to get royalties from that, or his business will get royalties from that. And that's exactly what you said was going to happen. I think as an artist, it makes sense. You're like, well, if people are ripping off my style, then I should make some money on that, from a copyright standpoint. But I have a couple questions on this, but I'll pause. And I don't know, do you have anything off the top of your head that you want to say about this, other than I told you so?
No, not I told you so. I mean, the one sort of like element that I guess develops out of this, and it's not much different than what we've been talking about, but this also seems like a way for Joe GarageBand or Joe and Jane GarageBand to get a feature from Gwen Stefani on their track. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be a marketplace that's even more crass than the current marketplace. However that works, we all have our imaginations of how it does go down, agents and all those kind of things. Now all of a sudden all those people go away, and it's just you're on an app and probably doing 10-second demos of like, who do I want to sing my verse? Do I want Nikki, or do I want Gwen, or maybe I want Tori Amos because she's featured because it's Valentine's Day, some commercial bullshit.
Yeah.
It does not paint a very beautiful picture to me. Maybe ironic as an AI music person. This seems like a race to the bottom to me.
I would agree. I think, well, my first thing was like, and I hadn't really thought about like the collaboration things, like, oh yeah, I did a song with, Gwen Stefani, for example. That opens up a whole another angle to this. But at first I was like, who would do this? But I guess you have a better shot if you can legally license Gwen Stefani's name, sound, all that stuff, and put a song out that says this is a Gwen Stefani song. I have way higher chance of that thing going to the top, right, or being noticed than if I put out a Sometimes Sheep album, right? So I think it muddies the waters, and I think artists are going to be like, wait, there has to be some vetting process. You can't just put crap out in my voice,
Absolutely.
And then I think the technology behind that is going to have to be, if you are truly going to be able to use a band's or an artist's sound and persona and all of that, like the technology's got to be tight. Like there can't be that much variance. Like I can't say this is what No Doubt, this is a No Doubt song if it doesn't sound like No Doubt, right? And if it doesn't use their chord progressions and their ambient background noise and all that stuff. So, to me, I think there's a lot of like, how exactly is this going to work? And hopefully it's not just like some shitty knockoff version of Gwen Stefani's voice, that you can apply to anything. But maybe it is. And then it's just an ocean of, we'll just keep using Gwen Stefani. It's an ocean of her music out there that's not really her music that, people are.
Yeah, and again, not to sympathize with poor Gwen, but how does poor Gwen feel about that? You know what I mean? When people start politicizing their music or singing about real life historical nonfiction events, and now all of a sudden it's your voice saying those words, the mind boggles at like how many different ways that could go sideways, right? And the thing that it's in one of these press releases, I don't know if it's for the UB one or the UDO one or the Clay one, but
there's this one too.
In one of these, it's talking about this platform. Look, you guys, this platform is not a prompt-based meme generator.
Right.
And so in AI music, I was watching a DJ who was talking about this. He's a drum and bass DJ, and part of his lark, part of what he used to do on streams or whatever is like take a video game soundtrack or some piece of music from a movie and, do some quick shit and turn it into like a jungle track, you know, and that was part of his entertainment model for the people that were into his stuff. He was saying that even though that was just a nice to have, that's gone, because the way that these music generation things, it is memifying music. And when I say meme, what I'm talking about is like, there's a thing that happened today, there's a song about it tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the next day it's gone. Like it's now, music is now following the news cycle, and we know how fast that goes, you know what I mean? So it's like, shit, dude, you know, songs come out and you live with them for a couple weeks, you know, the ones that make it, right? But now it's just going to be like Firefly, like just you lived and you died, and now it's just this piece of data sitting on the internet somewhere.
Lifespan for songs. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I feel like that's already happening. It's funny because you'll hear songs that reference current things, and these are not AI songs necessarily, but you know, reference like certain technologies or like Instagram even, right? And you're like, that's like in 20 years, that's going to be so irrelevant, you know? But now it's like not even technology. Now it's like events that are happening, right? Things that our president has said, things that are popular in social culture. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't really matter because those songs aren't going to live forever. Like back in the day, you know, songs would live forever. Like I still listen to music from, you know, the 50s and 60s. So
right.
It's like,
yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's only going to take, like, I guess the part that I have my popcorn ready for is, like, you know, the release of I Love Jeffrey Epstein and All the Things He Did by Kid Rock. You know? Like, yeah, I'd listen to that, I guess, but, like, I don't know how we have a, you know, I mean, if you look at the conversation that's going around, like, deep fake videos and, like, how in the world do you litigate that and, write policy around that. I think that there's similar policy problems, and the folks writing these press releases are really just looking at the dollar signs.
I would agree. I think what this is too is that it's kind of a grab. You know, they're like, okay, we have to wall this garden, right? We have to start putting up some barriers and all that to protect our artists, obviously, which I get, right? Like I have artists that have worked very hard to create a living and a sound off this, and you shouldn't be able to just like replicate that and make money off of it without compensation. So I get that, but I think what's going to happen is, I think what you're going to see is, like you said, it is a race to the bottom in terms of like, now I can create music with your persona, and I can create shitty music, I can create all the music I want, I can say things that you wouldn't say, and you know, now your brand is diluted or injured, right, beyond repair, because there's this deep fake music that's happening. So I'm sure they're going to think about that. I'm sure there's going to be some way to, you know, counteract that legally. I hope there's some vetting process for that, because I would be mad if, you know, I was a famous artist and that was happening to me. But at the same time, those artists are like, I wonder who's going to sign up. It's kind of like the Spotify train. Like, you know, Taylor Swift and all those people that are like, I'm not jumping on that because you're taking money out of the artist's pocket. And then, you know, Taylor Swift's on Spotify now.
It's a crack in the dam. It really is.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's going to be like Lake Tahoe real estate, you know? Like, for those of you not in California, there's a Lake Tahoe, right? And it's this big-ass lake, and check it out. There's only so many houses around the lake, right? And the people that have a house at the lake are the people that got there first. And you wonder if there's going to be that same divide in music where it's like, in this time, on this planet, in these 200 years, was the time that people recorded and released and were paid for music. And then this thing happened where now it's just music. Now it's not really attributable to anybody. Mm-hmm. Some of it's financed and some of it's not, but there's this sort of legacy encyclopedia set of humans that made music at one time in the world. I mean, that's obviously pretty extreme, but you know, you look back at silent movies, you look back at vaudeville, and it's like, those were the last people to do that. Right.
Yeah, exactly. There is a point. And I think we're there, you know, we're getting there pretty closely. Yeah. What else is interesting about this too that I see so the corporations are protecting their artists. I get that. But in doing that, I think what you're going to see is, okay, so now we're creating AI music, right? But if sanctioned AI music is now created through these libraries, right, through this WMG collaboration that they've got going on with Udio or Clay, you have to go through there to get like stuff that will actually get played. Like, is there a point where Spotify, Apple, all of the streaming services are going to say like, nah, we only take stuff that's been sanctioned, right? It's gone through some type of copyright review and licensing review. And then what'll happen is, and I don't think we're probably too far off from that. And then I think what'll happen is the music that say you're creating outside of those platforms on Suno and other AI platforms that come up, we're going to be relegated to like the SoundCloud world, right? And you're like, okay, well, I'm a SoundCloud AI person because, or whatever the new SoundCloud is going to be for AI music. Maybe it's Suno. But, that's where I have to do my thing kind of in the shadows of the internet because I can't license. They're only playing stuff that gets licensed in these other, that's gone through the proper licensing channels to make sure that all the checks and balances are in place. So, I think at the end of the day, corporations will find a way to win, and win in air quotes because you're not winning. They're going to find a way to protect themselves on the licensing side. And then I think true music, good music, is going to be created kind of, again, underneath this
elsewhere,
right?
Yeah.
It's going to, like, the cycle continues because I think that's how it goes now. Like, you listen to most stuff that's put out that's popular music, it sucks, right? And a lot of the good music you hear is stuff that, like, either, kind of had its start in SoundCloud or other independent channels. And then, eventually they get picked up by some corporate machine and go, okay, we're going to put you in here now,
It kind of like, fuck, man. It's like it's a velvet glove cast in iron, right? It's trying to be a friendly thing, and it's pretty heavy-handed, what you described.
Yeah.
An alternative, and it won't go this way. What you said, I think, will absolutely happen, right? An alternative, and, we talked a little bit about this on the last episode. I just happen to be a Nine Inch Nails fan, so I'm full of all this trivia. But back to Lil Nas X and Old Town Road, that is built off of a Nine Inch Nails sample.
Mm-hmm.
That sample came off of this compilation that they put out called Ghosts, which ostensibly was their audition tape into all this film scoring that Nine Inch Nails does these days. Anyway, there was a song on there that Nas pulled and, created his song. That whole album, Ghosts, was put out under what I believe was like the Creative Commons license or some version of that. And really, ultimately, what that meant was it was Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails, my friend Trent, obviously, saying, do whatever you want with it, but the moment you make money with it, you got to give me some.
Right. Yeah, like an open
I
source
like that
license,
kind of. Yeah, I really like that, where it's just like, make the music, you're gonna anyway. But then when there are financial consequences, let there be financial consequences. That to me feels like probably a more open and collaborative model. It's obviously not a gatekeeping model. One wonders, right? Like, okay, take those two pressures of the finance part of music and let them run in a sliding doors world. And then 20 years from now, check in on music, right?
Right.
How healthy is it? Here's the pay model that like has been done, whatever. Like, who the fuck knows what those two different realities would sound like? I mean, I'm so curious. Like, it either is just going to be totally watered down and just like Muzak, or maybe it's like thriving because there's all this free and open collaboration. I mean, I'm sure both would be just equally shitty, but we can dream.
I think we're kind of there anyway with music, right? I think there's what's popular, and by popular, I don't mean actual populist vote. I mean what gets played, right, on award shows and and
the mainstream stuff.
The mainstream stuff, and I hate to say it sucks, but musically it ain't great, and and I think it's just written to move
units.
Pieces, units. So that's always happened, right? And I think a lot of the music, the good music, is being created kind of underneath the covers, if you will. And that music is, hard to find and does not get monetized, right? Unless it ends up in a Instagram reel or TikTok reel or something like that. That's kind of it. Yeah, or that, or it gets sampled and remixed, or it kind of right place, right time, and it'll happen. But for the most part, that stuff doesn't happen. So I think we're already there. I think we're going to get there, just like AI has sped everything up. We're going to get there faster and further into the abyss, probably.
Yeah.
I like to believe that good music will still be created, which is, our mission here. And I think humans, as long as we remain human and don't turn into full robots in the next 20 years, we will continue to create good music. It's just how will that music be found, and there has to be a venue for that. Which right now anybody can create music and put it out on Spotify as long as you follow a few simple rules and formatting. You know, how that music actually gets found is up to how good you are with social media, really, at this point. So, but at some point, you know, if music has to go through this like licensing check every time, you know, then it's gonna put a lot of gates up in front of people to get stuff out there in a real way.
Yeah. Which, of course, is why we want to get ours up and out before that licensing.
We got to, yeah. I would say to anybody that is thinking about releasing music right now, especially doing AI music where, you know, copyright laws have not really caught up, like, do it. Just put it out there. Yeah, do it now and ask for forgiveness later, you know. I think if you get sued, it'll be a good thing. It's like, yeah, it's a notch in my belt.
Somebody found me.
Somebody found me. Yeah, lawyers found me.
My marketing's working.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, yeah, that's the news. You were right. That's what's happening. We'll keep tabs on that and see where we go with that. I think it's going to go exactly as we said, but you know, let's get out there now. Get out in front of it.
I mean, who's going to be first? Is it going to be Ja Rule? It's going to be somebody like
that's kind of like on the cusp of washed up.
Yeah, somebody that seems real, somebody that you can like. Well, yeah, that person. But then on second thought, you can't really think of any of their music or like, why haven't I heard of that person in a while? You know, it's going to be like, you know, Chris Stapleton or like Try That in a Small Town guy. You know, it's going to be one of those people that were in the news cycle for whatever reason. And now it's going to be like, hey, you too.
Ja Rule has a #1 hit.
That's right.
Created by, you know, some guy in Rhode
some 13-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah, some kid in Rhode Island that made it in 20
It's
seconds.
a song about Fortnite.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that, but it kind of reminds me of like there was a point in like I don't know if Snoop Dogg is still actively making music, but like I would say early 2000s, mid 2000s, he was just on every song. Do you remember that? Like he was just doing these like yeah, and he was like
yeah, he was the ad-libber dude.
Yeah, he was that, and yeah, he was totally. You could tell he was like phoning them in too. It was just like. You know, he would say the same 3 or 4 things over and over, and I was like, dude, he's on every song. So pretty soon, I think through AI, you could just have Snoop show up, bust out a, you know, ad-lib rap in the middle of your song. And so I'm thinking it's Snoop. Ja Rule's a good guess. Maybe like, you know, on the female side.
Snoop is pretty solid. Snoop is pretty fucking solid.
Snoop's solid, but he shows up on so many things, and he's really good about licensing himself and marketing.
Well, that's what I mean. He's a solid guest. Like this dude is for sale.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He'll probably just be like, "Shit, let's do it," you know.
On the female side, they'll grab somebody who's got enough cachet with female fans, and who, you know, it's going to be like a Selena Gomez type person that, on first blush, it's like, wait a minute, I thought you had way more artistic credibility than that, and then you realize, like, oh, wow, this is a powerhouse business person.
Yeah.
That music is a tool.
Yeah.
Music is an empire building tool for them, so of course they would choose Empire.
Yeah, and they'll be like, "Oh, I sold the rights to my likeness or my persona to, you know, Warner Music Group for X amount of millions of dollars or whatever, plus royalties forever." And you're like, you know, how are you not going to do that?
Yeah,
you
totally.
Know, like, yeah, you're looking like, okay, what's my musical career actually going to look like from here? What's the trajectory look like if you're Selena Gomez or even Snoop? Really, you know, it's like
and there's opportunity for them to do exactly what we're doing. You know, Snoop is going to say, "Yeah, welcome to the Plastic Beach," you know, a couple times, and then he's go, "Man, I want another line of revenue. You know what? I'm going to bring back Snoop Lion." Exactly. And you can do him now, and you can have us both on your song.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, Haley Williams is going to say, well, you can get the Paramore shit, or you can get my solo shit, where it's a little edgier, or I use this other voice. I mean, there's going to be value adds.
What do you think? What do you think somebody would pay for that? Like, what's the consumer model on that? Is it like a per song deal? I mean, I'm sure you license the platform just like you do with Suno or Udio or any of those. You know, is it? I want to buy the Snoop plugin.
I think it's like
probably
that.
Right, and that's $30 or $100 for a song. I mean, you're not going to pay that as a consumer. I'm not going to pay $100 to have Snoop sit into my song. So I'll probably have to pay some SaaS subscription, right?
Bro, it's going to be.
It's the pro. Free. You know, I get the gold, the platinum, and the.
It's going to be free with watermarks. You know what I mean? It's going to be free and like low lossy, so that you can hear it and get high on it.
Right.
And there's going to be people, there's going to be a whole economy of people that released those demos, those watermark demos that didn't
Yeah.
pay for it, but now here's just this shitty SoundCloud demo
Horribly.
that's on the
Yeah.
internet now, and
Yeah.
check it out. That's fucking Snoop Dogg, dude.
Yeah.
And then there's gonna be like with video games, you want to buy a new gun skin. It's like a microtransaction or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
It would be cool though if cool from like a problem solving standpoint. I'm getting excited about like, you get them in, you can try it. Then maybe there's a small fee for pushing out the high res, without the watermark or something. Then maybe there's another fee if you want to kick it to DistroKid or something that's going to put it on platforms. And then the royalties start.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now you're out there. So every stream, you make fractions of a penny. Now you're going to make fractions of a penny. Or Snoop will get his fractions.
So, there could be, you could find, one of these activist celebrities that, I don't want to use Taylor Swift because it's too obvious, but let's use Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
What happens when Taylor Swift is looking at the revenue of her music and going, okay, that's that. And then she turns her head and sees the money that she's making by all of her fans making songs of hers or something.
Yeah.
And now, like, it's a scale model. Now it's like, shit, I can make 20 million by writing 20 songs, or I can make 20 billion by having 2 million people make 10 songs a piece or something like that. And it just becomes like, what are we doing? Like, I thought that this was about your ex-boyfriend. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. It's weird to me. I mean, music and money have always gone together, but also, they fight, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Art and money are the same way. And it's like, why does it, if it wasn't about money, nobody would care, I guess, ultimately, or fame. I think people that, like, I don't make music for fame. I make music to have fun and express myself and just be creative. But it always goes this way, right? They're like, well, wait, you can't make music, without us licensing it and copyrighting it and all this stuff. And it sucks all the fun out of it. And then you get to this point where each of these artists just become a business. Taylor Swift is like one of the biggest businesses in the United States, right?
Yep.
She's just, and she's going to make that business decision every time, right? I don't think at some point, I don't think she would give up. If it was billions of dollars opportunity here, she's not going to go like, no, I want to, preserve the integrity of my music. I think at some point she's going to be like, yeah, we're going to make $20 billion. And I'll start another band.
Yeah, right. She's an interesting case, because, and like, I'm not into it, dude, but like, she's all over the news and I read the news. So like, I learn about, she's a little bit hard to pin down because, this past couple of years where she's now buying her catalog back. Mm-hmm. And when she wasn't able, I think this is how it went down, but when she wasn't able to secure the rights of her old catalog, she then went about re-recording her old albums, as Taylor's version or whatever. And that was her, like, a very clever and, high cost way of taking control of the narrative. So she does present as somebody who's like, oh, wow, this does matter to you.
Yeah, that's true.
But probably the money matters more.
Yeah, eventually, and I don't want to speak for Taylor Swift. I don't know her,
no,
but
I'm so sorry, Taylor.
But at the same time, I feel like any artist that is presented with like, hey, you could make 2 million, or you could make 20 million, but just by letting people do this, like, you're probably more often than not going to be like, yeah, let's do that.
The Fugees are taking the check.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think you're right. I think it's going to be bands like, that type of stuff where they're just like, okay, like our musical career's over, but hey, we have this whole extra line of revenue or a new line of revenue or a line of revenue that is now, going to start paying us because people want to create, Wyclef songs or whatever.
The estate of Coolio is proud to bring to you Coolio.
Right. Coolio, yeah. The Coolio plugin. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Clamoring for it. I just can't wait.
And it's going to be, warbly, versions of it that are watermarked with, this is Coolio. And then, and then you'll have to pay, the paywall will get you the better version. And then you're right, there's some distribution model where you end up there with all the other Coolio songs. It's going to be interesting. I don't know that it'll be much different than like Suno is today. There's millions of songs on Suno, and it's like, I'm not listening to those songs. I'm not.
Yeah, let me ask you that question. Have you, and this is where it's like, are we hypocrites, but like, we're on Suno. We're using the shit out of the tool, dude. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. We're users.
Right. Yeah.
Have you ever, listened to someone else's song on Suno?
I have listened to someone else's song, and it was out of curiosity. It was not because I was looking for new music. I went and looked at the songs that had like the highest views and most streams or plays, and I was just curious. And I've done that a handful of times, and I'm not going back to those songs.
It's silly, yeah.
Yeah,
there was
it just
one
feels
song,
like a wasteland of stuff right now. And I'm sure there's probably good stuff. Like, we have good stuff.
our shit is great.
Our shit's great. But, that's not where I don't think people are going to Suno to find music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the issue with like, and maybe that's part of the masquerade, but it's like job one, get off of Suno. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of
platform to
ghettoizes
build.
it already. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's strange to me though, like it is a platform to build, and it's strange to me that there's a discovery ecosystem there. Like what the app looks like is that it's designed for you to engage with it like you engage with Spotify and, make playlists and favorites and all that kind of stuff. And yes, you're right. Some of those songs have millions of streams, and it's like, is this novelty? Is this a community? Is this good?
Right.
There was one song that kept coming up after it was, I don't know what Suno was doing. It was just in like next tracks. We were working on Hobgoblin, and there was this ska track that came right after with a female vocal, and it sounded so much like kind of dance hall crashers, Save Ferris, that moment. And it was, this burst of nostalgia inside me when I heard that voice, like that, that female ska voice. But I can't tell you anything else about the song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, what was it?
I have done that too. I've played like our stuff, and then like I'll just let it play. I'll walk out of the room and I'll come back, and there's like something playing. I was like, what is that? And
yeah,
it'll be
it's just what comes next.
It's like some random track on Suno. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, and not all bad. It's just like I'm not here to find other music. I'm using this as a creative tool to build music, and the whole like discovery aspect of it is, I would imagine they're going to license that at some point. That's the like, hey, we have so many millions of songs. Like, if you want to stop paying for ASCAP to play in your grocery store, just throw the jazz channel on Suno, and that's
this crowdsourced thing. Yep.
Yeah, that's 10% of the cost. So I'm sure there's a play there. They're not dumb. Whoever's behind it is very smart, and you're building IP, right? You have all this stuff, and you're like, and they actually own it. Like the licensing for Suno's, if you are not on a pro, like if you're not on a paid plan or a pro plan. You don't own that music. Right. They own it. That's their music. Yeah. So the song has to be created on a pro plan, which was like, I started making songs early on. I was like, just using like the freebie or the cheap plan. And I was like, oh no, if we're going to get serious about this, we have to get on the pro plan.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Cause they're going to own it. And then there's that'll ensue. So, I mean, if you think about them, they're throwing however many millions of songs. That's how many darts they're throwing and going like, one of these is going to hit, and we're going to own the licensing for that. And
Yep.
Yeah. So they're also doing this like hooks thing. I don't know if you've seen that. You can essentially like upload a video and upload a song or create a song to the video, and they're like shorts, like Instagram or TikTok shorts. So they're really leaning into like the social media side of it too. Like, oh, this is what you do your dance to, or this is what you cook dinner
trying to go viral. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have no interest in that at the moment, but
no.
Somebody does. Somebody
viral.
Does.
We gotta do a viral Tracers dance, dude.
That's right. Just steady skanking to Tracers. Yeah. Cool. Well, let's shift gears. Let's talk about creating music in Suno, since we're talking about it, and talk about Voton and what that looked like. I think it was a really, as I mentioned earlier, we were kind of hot and heavy, busting out things. They were things that, me as I'll call myself the producer in this situation, but they were music that I could like get down with and like had frame of reference for. And then, so that was like Hobgoblin, which was the ska band. That was Haptic Lizard, which is like kind of the stoner doom thing. Obviously, sometimes Sheep is more indie pop rock, and Zanunus, which is a grunge band. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I want to do this Voton guy. And it was like Dire Straits and Peter Gabriel and like, which I've heard both independently, but don't celebrate their catalogs per se. And I was just like, wow, where are we going with this? I don't know how to do this. So I want to talk about that process for you from a writing and almost like persona development standpoint, and then we'll talk a little bit about what went into it to get the sounds, and maybe we'll listen to some.
What I wanted to do with Votan, and I don't think I knew this at the beginning when I came up with that name and was like, ooh, this will be some dark and brooding thing, but really what Votan has become is a place where I can write darker lyrics, that feel like they can then be twisted and abstracted into what I feel like I'm hearing in a good Peter Gabriel song or even a good Pink Floyd song, where it isn't literal at all. Sometimes it is, but even if it is a literal lyric, it sounds very spacey and very abstracted just because of the nature of the music. Peter Gabriel is a great example, but a little bit misleading because most people know Peter Gabriel for like Sledgehammer and Big Time, which
Right.
are, two of the best songs ever fucking written.
Right.
Standing
And best videos.
on that.
And
Yes,
the best
yes,
videos.
sir. Yes, sir. But he's got this whole like dark, I don't want to call it dark because it's not menacing. It's not dangerous music. It's just brooding and maybe even just like self-indulgent music. Literally has a song called Excellent Birds, and it's like, I'm going to tell you right now, Excellent Birds isn't about anything. It's just some dude, making tone poems. And so Votan is sort of supposed to be brooding like that. And I thought it would be fun to play with, what elements can we bring in to speed that up or slow that down? Does he have a band behind him all the time? Or are these weird tracks that are just like synth driven or whatever?
Yeah.
A weird mandate.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, totally like off. Like, I was just like, we're ripping through these bands. And like, I was like, yeah, I can see myself in these bands or playing with these bands. And then all of a sudden this comes along. We're like, okay, like, what do I do? So what was it? You gave me, like you have with all the other bands, there's like a brief, not a brief, a pretty comprehensive bio of the band, of the sound, what it sounds like. But I didn't really know where to start. I was just like, man, I don't know how to get this sound out of me, first of all,
Yeah.
and then out of a machine. So what I did is I went to ChatGPT and I spent some time in there.
Yeah.
And I'll just show here what we did, and let's see if I can share.
Yeah, I'm
this
curious what you
screen.
said. Like, I want to hear the fog.
Exactly. I mean, really, it's pretty brief. So I took your, this is ChatGPT being very nice
Yep.
to me.
You're so fantastic.
So, yeah, I'm creating a new band called Votan. Here's the description. This is the backstory you gave me, right? They emerged as a fully formed artist, as if from nowhere, no mother, no father. Pretty deep stuff here. From the north, from the west. Same species as David Bowie. I love all this. Very creative. He is above money. He does not explain the lyrics. He defies genre. The only constant is that there is atmosphere, right? And then we had some comparables that you gave me. So obviously, I put that into ChatGPT, and then we have the artist profile here, sound signature. If substance is a vessel, vibe is the ocean. That's great. Comparables, and then it just starts generating like Suno prompts, right? Atmospheric, moody art rock, blending analog synths, clean guitars, slow tempo, immersive and cinematic tone, deep baritone vocals, mysterious, placeless accent, inspired by early 80s art rock. And this is all ChatGPT generating this that I can use in Suno.
Yeah.
Then obviously Chat, being very helpful, offers to write the first song concept. And I was like, oh, no, here's the first song concept. I got that, right? My boss gave this to me. I know what I'm doing.
That.
So yeah, it's coming down. So these are the lyrics for a song called Urban Vapor. And I've just pasted in basically what you gave me. And now, Chat's like, hell yeah, perfect, killing it. Already like really living what Votan's, ethos and sound is going to be.
I love
like.
an affirmation.
Yeah. The whole time you're just like, yes, I'm on the right track.
I'm so good.
Yeah. So based on that, then you get this whole bit from Chat, which is like, a lot of what was said above, right? Baritone, male vocals, but it's starting to like pull out these pieces based on what we gave it to generate, a musical style that I can now prompt. Also, cool stuff like this, like tempo, right? We should be thinking about 80 to 95 BPM, slow building, dynamic peaks, high fidelity, lots of reverb, cinematic, layered anthemic vocals. And and then some vocal guidance, right? Baritone, calm but or charged delivery, accent impossible to place. I love this, right? It's like, it's like the Middle Earth accent where you're like, oh, everybody had an English accent in Lord of the Rings. Cool.
Totally.
Yeah, it's very Lord of the Rings. So just some really cool stuff coming here, right? And then I say, well, I need a much shorter prompt for Suno. Suno won't take this. There's limits to it. So then we start to get this, and then I said, oh yeah, I forgot. It should actually take influence from these songs, right? So we had Brothers in Arms and with some robot shit from Beck, which I went verbatim because I was like, I want to tell them what's going on here.
Give this guy his picture.
Yeah. So now we have a couple different prompts, right? And Suno can start generating like, okay, do you want like the cinematic anthem? Do you want the dark industrial sound, ambient cathedral, post-human groove, neo-noir anthem?
So sick.
Yeah, and you can just keep kind of rocking this, right? Can you include notes about the singer's vocal approach and voice inside the prompt? And we just keep doing this, and eventually, we get to a point to where like you just start playing with these things inside of Suno. And for me, what was interesting about this is like the arrangement component. I really didn't have any idea of like what the arrangement should be for the Voton song, because it wasn't like, one, there was no song that we were working from, right? There was like, sometimes I'll do a riff or I'll like, pop something out on a keyboard.
Or a piece of melody or a piece of something.
Yeah. I mean, I've even gone so far as to hum, right? And I think there was one song with Hobgoblin where I was like, just sing it into your phone and I'll put it in there and that'll be the, the kind of melodic hook.
Yeah.
Which worked, by the way. Very cool.
Yeah.
But for this, I was like, I don't know what this is going to sound like. So then I started taking these prompts along with your lyrics and the arrangement that you'd give me and put it into Suno, and just got like, I don't know, 20 versions of a song, right? And then sent those over to you for consideration. A pretty interesting way to go, and probably an example of how you can use, ChatGPT or other, whatever your LLM of choice is, but use that to help you in this whole process, right?
Yeah.
And I think the important part of this is having the idea either in your head or written down like you did, thankfully, to be able to put that into the machine and get something out of it. Because without that, you're kind of like shooting in the dark. You may get there, but I think this helps like dial it in and create something that you can always kind of point back to and go like, is this the thing I wanted to create? Is this what that band should sound like? And, probably should do that for any band you're in anyway, even if it's not AI, even if it's just a real band. You should always kind of have your branding and your messaging clear. So it was fun. It was really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's not always an advantage to be a 50-year-old man.
That's right.
But in this case, I find that understanding the very first law of computing is helpful. And the very first law of computing is garbage in, garbage out, right? Mm-hmm. And so the better materials that you start with, and the more, maybe better is the wrong word, but the more 360 thinking that you can put around your problem and provide the machine with approach angles or directions, I've found that it is much more helpful. And and you've gotten here before and we've talked about it, but there is a time where you take your 3 sentences and you've spent all fucking afternoon, and now you're wrestling with paragraphs and paragraphs of text that eventually you realize, like, where did all this come from? Like, this bears no relation to what I started with. I have to start over now.
Right. Yes.
But part of the art is kind of understanding, how far to drive the horse before you let it take a break. You can't get too far ahead of yourself. And so just to take what you just showed us, and the prompting, what happens after that is also really interesting. And there are booby traps, because if anybody has worked with any kind of AI, like generative images, if you've spent time on Midjourney or something like that, one of those prompts can just be run indefinitely and generate thousands and thousands of songs, like by itself. The way that the random number generation aspect of AI is that you can send it the same thing, and as long as the seeds in the background are randomly generating, it's like catching a person on a different day. They're going to say something slightly different. That's part of the interesting thing. You don't get the same thing twice. unless you start coaching it that way. And so let's say you've got 10 prompts and you run 10 versions off of each prompt. All of a sudden now there's a very human like editorial workload that needs to happen to where we've got 100 arrangements to go through and have to build a rubric for like which one, you know, is good or bad. And like that, as like mundane and Dunder Mifflin as that sounds like very boring. That's music, dude. Like Metallica in And Justice for All, and I think also the Black Album, but in And Justice for All, their process for writing that was that everybody went away for some amount of time, and then everybody came with the big bag of tapes and like, here's my riffs and here's my licks and here's my fills, and then James and Lars just sat going through those tapes and building paper spreadsheets for, you know, the different pieces that go together in like really like assembled music.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that assembly feeling that comes out of this, you know, arrangement selection way where it's just like where we need to manage our options and then we need to narrow it down, but not too quickly that we lose magic that's happened in some of them. And then the iterative nature of the AI means that we're going to hear stuff that we can't get.
Yeah, you'll hear things you can't get back. Yeah.
But we become inspired by that and it starts to shape the thing. So, you know, like it is an interesting process. It is a legitimate process and it is still a lot of work.
It is. It's interesting. It's iterative. It's a ton of work. It is. It's I was thinking about that, and that first, you know, you get your prompt or series of prompts, and you're like, let's try this, right? And you're literally just like, try, and you know, you're listening to it, and you eventually get to something where you're like, I think that sounds good. I like that. Right, as a human, I like the way that sounds, and I like the way that song is going. And then from there, you know, you can narrow it down to like, okay, like these are kind of three arrangements that I like. And especially with a brand new song where you haven't done any like melodic input or anything, you're just like, what's the machine going to give me? And you get it back, you're like, okay, like I like that, but it's hundreds of songs, and you're just like, no, kind of making really quick choices. And then there's a few where I'm always like, okay, that one, all right, there's a version of that I like. And then from there, you go into this iteration, right? And that's where, for me, like I start making arrangement choices, and I start saying like, okay, I like the way this is laid out. And then we'll get into like, we should probably, you know, double the chorus here, or we should probably, you know, have somebody on backing vocals here. And those are the types of like producer type things you can get into. But I imagine it almost like a band coming in and going like, we have 8 different ways to play this song. And as a producer, you have to be like, that one is the one that's going to hit. Yeah, that's the good one. That's the under the bridge or whatever. You know, like that's the way we want that to work.
Yeah, it's like, that's the one. And you know, it's really weird because oftentimes you hear the one and you're like, I don't know why that's the one, but that's the one.
Yeah.
And
no, absolutely.
You know, it just presents. And, you know, the other thing, too, is that, you know, our process has changed. You're talking about what I'll call polish. You know, like we've got the song. This is the song. And now let's double the choruses and let's add some hand claps and do some bells and shit like that. That is a little ethereal in Suno where, you know, my perspective of that is that we kind of get the demo, or what we call live V1. You know, when we started making music, we were going straight to live. We've changed our process now to where we start with the studio track, then we do the live and or an acoustic track. You had the brilliant observation that like, oh shit, playing these songs acoustically and listening to them actually allows you to sort of like harden it and vet that, okay,
like,
this
is that a good song?
Yeah, right. And then we start adding the bells. So, you know, we've been iterative about our process, but that I think is really cool because you get the demo, and now I'm bringing that to Mutt Lange or, you know, Bob Rock and saying like, make me a fucking star. And he's like, well, all you need is an organ back here and this, that, and the other thing. Where it gets tricky is the iterative process now. Now you need to feed that song back in and say, I love what you've done. All caps, don't fucking change the goddamn structure, robot. But then also start to pepper in some interesting things. And, you know, you've got your various controls that you can use to build variants in that.
Yeah, and there are tools being introduced. Even Suno has their studio component, which I haven't spent too much time with, but I think you can kind of keep it. You can add things to it, probably more than take away, I guess. I guess you could like get the stems and pull stuff out. And, you know, I've seen videos where people like put in their own guitar solos and things like that. I don't know. To me, that's kind of not where I want to be right now with it. I feel like I don't want to take this into my own studio. The reason I'm using AI is so that I can see how far I can push it on its own.
Yeah, the sick thing is to go as fast as feels.
Yeah, that's
safe.
what's cool. Yeah, there's some fine line between like just hauling ass and getting a good product out of it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, anyway, I think overall, like getting there. What's interesting about Voton, if we get back to that a little bit, is just like not knowing what you're going to get, right? Like as somebody who's like in charge of creating or producing this music now, based off of your overall description of the band and the music, it's like, what am I going to get, and how? I don't really know how to evaluate it, but even through the process you just talked about, where you get hundreds of takes, you still figure out that like, oh, okay, that's a good song. That sounds good. And now that sounds good, let's start iterating on that. And I think we got to a point, at least to a V1 on the Urban Vapor song that sounded pretty good.
It's got atmosphere, for real.
Yeah. Should we play a little bit of it? Let's do it. Let's hear it. Definitely got atmosphere. All atmosphere. Like Knopfler right there.
Yeah, that's his voice.
And when you heard that, you were like, that's what he sounds like.
Yeah.
It's like David Bowie.
Yeah.
Showing up under some
Being
other
fucking
identity.
weird. I'm a human cockroach. Check it out.
There we go. Interesting, like the drums start getting, it just feels synthesized. It feels, the machine knows. Like, they're like, okay, I see where you're going for. It's not like rock drums. There's like, no, these are like kind of synthesized, reverse reverb.
He's
on the
outrun.
drums. Yeah. It's pretty cool. I love it. Also, 6-minute song. So Voton is a little self-indulgent, which I think, you got to be pretty proud of yourself to make a 6-minute song.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the perfect. He's just like, no, you're going to listen to this. It also kind of reminded me of, oh God, what's I can't remember the name of the band now. The guy that dances all weird on,
Future Islands.
Yeah, Future Islands, that guy. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit, like a deeper.
He's got that.
Yeah, he's definitely got that same vibe. That's funny. Everybody, I can describe the guy that dances weird, and everybody knows it's Future Islands.
Oh, Future Islands from David Letterman in 2013. Yeah, dude. When I heard that that crying guitar, that wailing guitar, that was just very mournful off in the distance. It's like I can see this guy on some fucking Irish beach with waves crashing. It's just very mournful, moody. What is it? I don't really know why you sound sad.
Right.
And maybe you're not sad. You just sound sad.
Yeah.
And that deep baritone, David Bowie's a great one. David Sylvian, if you're not familiar with him, is like another one of those guys that just sounds like he came from somewhere else, And it's like, I can't totally relate to what it seems like you're feeling, but boy, oh boy, am I irradiated by it. You know what I mean? Like I am affected by whatever's going on with you.
Yeah, it's almost got like if he was standing in the room, he's a foot taller than everybody and dressed way better. You know what I mean? Like
Rick Owens head to toe, dude. Yes.
I'm like, he's got a cashmere turtleneck sweater on with a blazer at all times. Longer hair, and you're just like, dude. No way.
This
facial hair grows
has,
that perfectly. Like,
This dude has jewelry that you've tried to wear as much jewelry or even half as much jewelry as this person, and not been able to carry it off. It's like some kind of like colorless, ageless Lenny Kravitz, in a robe.
Exactly. Yeah. Drinks all day, but doesn't get drunk. He's just like, he's just kind of, he's just like a
Slash's dad.
Yeah. He's an alien philosophy professor that also writes music. Yeah, I don't know, man. Voton he's an interesting dude. We've only got one down so far, so we got another 3 or 4 to go with him. And I'm looking forward to it now that we've cracked the sound, and now we'll get through the rest. All right, well, let's we're aiming for end of year for Bottomless, and that, as far as I understand, is going to be a compilation of these bands that we're working on, and we're going to release that probably just as the Bottomless Festival compilation.
Yeah.
That'll be on streaming platforms and all that, and Voton will be there. Do we know who's headlining that thing yet? Or who headlined it?
Zanunus has the most headlining logo, so he tends to be at the top. I think that, it's Hobgoblin's show, so they have kind of the biggest voice. But, I don't know who the biggest act on stage is yet. I haven't
Right.
developed that much of the story. Like, probably out of all of these bands, sometimes Sheep is probably the most successful band, if I'm using my imagination.
Yeah.
They have that stadium sound.
Yeah.
But, maybe the
I think the
Urinal,
girls
maybe
like
Mondrian
them, too.
Urinal. Yeah, Mondrian Urinal can open up for them and, get the party started, get people jumping around. Mondrian Urinal, we haven't talked a lot about them, but they weirdly became the band that I write love songs to my fiance with.
I
And
could
it's been
tell.
very
These
sweet.
are, they're very like, yeah, I was like, these are all love songs. They're like super like new wave love songs, which is cool. Like, that's
It's
a
been
really,
fun.
yeah, it's nice to hear love songs that don't suck.
Yeah, I'm pretending to be Robert Smith. How
Yeah.
you do it?
Yeah, they're definitely, it's like The Cure and Franz Ferdinand hooked up and now have, created this dedicated love album.
Send me there, yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
no, it's really good. All right, well, I'm looking forward to working on more of those. I appreciate you joining again.
Yeah.
Probably just going to stay here. I don't think there's any reason for you to not join. And this will be your show from now on. I'll just take a back
Thanks for
seat.
having me.
All right, dude.
I'm having so much fun. Yeah, thank you, and see you in the next one.
See ya. Bye.
Later. Bye.